Welcome to the Rise to Thrive podcast. Rise to Thrive is your real talk resource to elevate your life and business through growth, wellness, and manifestation. With your co-host, Linda Tate, financial advisor turned life and wealth strategist, founder of Leela Life, and self-named Nordic shaman, and Amelia Travis, yoga teacher turned multi-six-figure business coach, founder of Stoked Yogi, and spiritual warrior. We're here to help you level up and create the life you imagine, sharing inspiration and strategy to elevate vibes and consciousness so you can rise to your best self and thrive as your best self. Tune in weekly to Thrive Daily. Tuning in now. Good day, listeners. We are so excited to bring you today's show with Rise to Thrive. I have my co-host, Amelia Travis, here, who is beyond excited to share her experience with her TED Talk in Bowling Green. So I'm going to get a chance to interview her and share her insights, her experience, and I hope you all enjoy today's episode. Welcome, Amelia.
Wadado. Good morning, afternoon, evening, nighttime, all the times a day. So happy to be here.
So Amelia,
welcome back. Welcome. Can we have a moment? We got to say welcome back. You guys maybe don't know, but Linda went away to Bali for a month, and we're going to hear all about that in a very soon upcoming episode. But now she's back and we're podcasting again, and you guys haven't known the difference because there hasn't even been a little blip in the radar, but I missed it so much.
I missed you, and I miss you guys too, and it feels so good to be back, and my lenses have shifted, and I can't wait to share all about that, as I'm sure perhaps, Amelia, yours have as well.
Yeah, my lens is a little cloudy, but I'm cleaning it, and my TEDx was a great opportunity to get some perspective around what I'm doing with my life, how I'm serving what I want to be doing. So I'm excited to share it with everyone. I think everyone needs to watch this speech. I poured my heart and soul into it and really, really asked myself, what would I tell people if I had a stage to tell them? And this was the first message that was on my heart that needed to come through. So it was such an honor and privilege, and I'm excited to talk with you guys about the process. And
yeah, I think for our listeners, whether you want to push pause now and go watch it or do that immediately after you listen to today's episode, do it. It's a treat, and you can feel your heart and soul poured into it.
Do it, okay?
Do it. This is a true story, but Brendan and I watched this together, and he then was quoting your TED Talk for days afterwards, and it kind of got to a point where I'm like, it's just the happy smile, and then I'm just, every time you'd say it, I'm just like, I'm pretending I'm getting this message from Amelia, and it was so sweet, but it was like that impactful, whatever that impactful means. So
God, that's so sweet. Sweet little Brendan.
So tell me how, I'm not going to say it's everyone's dream to have a TED Talk, but I would imagine that it's a few people's dream to have a TED Talk, and very few people make that a reality. So Amelia, at what moment were you like, I want to have a TED Talk, and then did it come to be?
Great question. So ever since I was a wee child, I've just wanted to stand on the world's largest soapbox and tell everybody how to live their lives. That's a joke, you guys. Okay. Yeah, it's not really a joke because I am actually bossy, but more than that, I'm a little ham. I love the stage. I love attention. And if I could have my own TV show or whatever, I probably would. But in all seriousness, I have been saying for a few years, probably since about 2015, that the next version of myself and the next evolution of my business is moving into the trifecta: writer, speaker, coach. And so I kept declaring this, or more like writing it in my journals and secretly harboring this wish that someone would come and discover me to be a writer.
Give you your contract.
Yeah. And shocker, life doesn't work that way. So I started writing more and I started coaching more. And then the speaking piece was just kind of the only like missing piece. And as we turned the page into 2019, I realized like it's not going to land on my doorstep. And if I want to speak, I need to offer myself as a speaker to people who might like to book a speaker or pursue opportunities for speaking. So in February, I had seen not even really a friend, but like an Instagram acquaintance who was hosting an event and was putting out a call for speakers. And I was like, oh, this is my chance. You know, I want to go speak at her event. And by the way, guys, another shocker alert. It doesn't work that way either. You can't just be like, hey, can I come to your event and speak on your stage? I mean, maybe some people can, but even if you have a good sized social media following or whatever, that is not how those decisions are usually made. Just in case you didn't know, now you know. So I put it out on Instagram. I like publicly announced that I wanted to speak at this person's event. And they were so gracious about it, but they were basically like, no, no, it doesn't work that way. And I was like, oh, okay, that's too bad, you know? But I had made this public declaration on my Instagram that on my stories, and it wasn't just like a sentence. It was like, I got on my stories and I was like, okay, you guys, like, here's the deal. I have a confession to make. I want to be a speaker, blah, blah, blah. I'm looking for opportunities. And, you know, this has been a long time coming. And I kind of like, expressed everything that I was feeling around it. And of course, my community is really loving and supportive. But I was trying to rally them up to slide into this chick's DMs and tell her that I should speak on her stage, which, by the way, is annoying and rude. If you don't know, now you know. I didn't know, but now I know. Because where I thought maybe 2 or 3 people would send her a DM and be like, you should let Amelia speak on her stage, like a couple hundred people sent her DMs saying that I should speak on her stage. And she's like, I don't even know you like that. Like, I'm not inviting you to do that. You know what I mean? And she reached out to me and was like very nicely, but very clearly like, please stop having people DM me. Like, it's annoying, you know? And I was just like, I'm so sorry. I was mortified.
Yeah.
Like, I was like,
I'm laughing because
so sorry.
like you could quickly see like, oh shit, like a small, like you're looking for support turned into that. And
yeah, it was
in all
not
the ways you didn't, in all the ways you never would have thought.
No, it wasn't a good look. So I was like, I'm really sorry. So then I get back on my stories and I'm like, guys, stop DM, don't do it. Stop DMing her. Like, and I think I tried to delete those stories. So anyway, I think what's important about all of this is I planted the seed, I set a clear intention, and then I publicly declared that intention. And whether it's public or not, you know, we've talked before. If you haven't listened to the Keys to Manifestation, go back and listen to that episode. Being clear about what you want and then being willing to write it down or speak it out are 2 of these really powerful tools for manifestation. So I did that. And then it was about, I don't know, 1 or 2 days later when she messaged me and she was like, stop having people DM me and no, you can't speak on my stage, right? And then like 1 or 2 days after that, I got a call or text or something from my friend Angie Corrigan, who's amazing. You should go watch her TED Talk. And she was like, hey, super random, but I've been invited to speak for this TEDx, and they asked if there's anyone else that I thought would be great, and I just immediately thought of you. Are you interested? And I'm like, yes, I'm in. Like, I just sent the message like, yep, like didn't think about it, didn't second guess it. I just like laughed because I'm like, God is giving me this opportunity. Like, I said I wanted this, and now here it is. So of course I'm going to do it. So I'm just like, yep, sent off the text, and then she's like, okay, let me set you up with the coordinator. And so I got on with the coordinator, and basically I still had to go through the whole interview process. I still had to present, my topic and all of that, but I manifested it is the answer. Like, I declared I wanted it. I put it out there. I stayed open. And I think the important thing is, like, when I got the no about the other event, I wasn't like, oh, I suck, or I'm the worst, or poor me, or like, I'm never going to be a speaker. I was just like, okay, this or something better, you know?
And it's also like, you weren't like, I'm going to change my manifestation or change my intention. And I'm not, just exactly as you said, I'm not meant to be a speaker. I feel like it's so easy with manifesting that the one thing that rocks you completely throws you off the boat. And that can happen to people. And then they're like a completely different way, but it's like, it's just the different form. Like you probably weren't like, yeah, TEDx in Ohio.
Definitely not. Definitely not. I mean, first of all, I try not, no offense, Ohio, but like I try not to go to the middle of the country because it's cold. This was the spring. It's cold and it's far. And I actually thought Bowling Green was in Kentucky. No offense, guys. No offense. I just really did. And apparently it is. It's also in Kentucky. So no, that's not the way I would have picked it. But I wouldn't have even known to dream for TEDx yet, right? So in my mind, it's like, that's a certain level of success. Like, yes, it's not the big TED stage. They are independently organized events, but they're still a pretty solid screening process and, an expectation that you have a certain level of experience as a speaker or impact anyway as a speaker before you book that. So yeah, so it was really cool for me to see that happen so quickly and to just feel really in trust about that event because I knew it was something that I had so consciously prayed for, asked for, manifested, declared to my community. How could I say no to that? Like even if I was afraid, how could I say no?
How quickly did you get the yes from the screening process?
Well, gosh, I don't know. I don't want to get anyone in trouble here, but basically when I was on my initial call, the structure of the call was, it was supposed to be a short, a 30-minute interview or whatever. It turned into an hour and a half, just chat, like a great conversation. And then toward the end of it, the director of that event was like, check it out. Basically, like, you got to do this application process. And I'm just going to say, like, do the application process. You just get that done. And like, you'll be good, And I'm like, okay. So
you're in.
Yeah, it was basically like you're in, without like violating the rules of like the application process. It was like, unless you totally fuck this up, like you're in. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, don't fuck it up, don't fuck it up, don't fuck it up. Yeah, like, so that was really cool. Then it created, I was still so nervous in the process of like doing the application and presenting my idea and all that stuff. But it worked out.
So you get your stage. How do you decide what to talk about?
Yeah, that was like an oh shit moment where I'm like, oh shit, now they're giving me a stage. You know what I mean? Like, what is my message? And I knew that it was something very similar to like what we talked about in our very first episode, which was starting before you're ready. Because I feel like for me, starting before you're ready is a theme that has been foundational in my success in kind of every step of the way. Like every step of the way in my life or business, the best things that have happened have felt like I'm not quite ready for that, or I'm not quite good enough for that, or who am I to do that? And then making the decision, like, start anyway, just start now, because if you wait until you're ready, like that day might never come. You know what I mean? If we look at the evidence, like I never had a day where I was like, okay, well, I'm ready to finish college. That took me 17 years, right? Like, okay, I'm ready to clean my room. Like, nope, it's still dirty. I'm 33. There's all over the floor. You know what I mean? Like,
well, in the ready, it's almost like that impulse and belief of you actually, like, it's possible, right? Like in that moment, you're saying, yes, I'll do it. There's all of you that's ready and then all of you that's also not ready, but it's the belief that you are ready.
Yeah, I think for me, it's learning to have a certain measure of trust in myself that I will figure it out. You know what I mean? Like whatever it is, I will figure it out. Like so far, I have not let myself down in being able to figure shit out, you know? So
well, it's to, the Marie Forleo, it's figure outable. And that, like, as annoying as that word I find it sometimes is, but I'm like, it is figure outable, like everything. And it's going to maybe be in the messiest ways, but it will be figure outable.
yeah. And that was like my first version of my talk was not nearly as good as what I presented. It was kind of a mess. Like I presented it to my husband and he was like, okay. Like I did he sat down on the couch in the living room when Tanner was napping and I did the whole presentation and he was like, okay, first of all, you're talking really weird. Like, I don't know what you're doing with your voice, but it's really weird and you need to stop that. And then he's like, secondly, you can't talk about poop. And third, you are not allowed to make jokes about Jews. And I was like, oh, okay. How many other unspoken rules are there that no one tells you about speaking? I thought that joke was funny. I did not think it was racially insensitive or whatever. And he's like, it doesn't matter. You can't make jokes about Jews, even if you love Jews, even if you think, you think it's funny. You guys are now like Amelia's racist asshole, or what is it called? Anti-Semite. First of all, I love Jews, and it wasn't even a joke. I was just saying that they're God's chosen people, and it was in a humorous way, but apparently it's not appropriate. This just got real awkward.
Well, now I'm like, well, what was the poop joke?
Well, the poop thing wasn't even a joke. It was like towards the end of my talk where I'm talking about nobody is special, and then I was talking about how Beyonce poops, which was so funny because then I pulled that out of my speech. Then I went to the initial event that I had been trying to speak at, and one of the speakers talked about Beyonce pooping and had slides with giant glitter poop emojis and Beyonce sitting on a toilet. And I was like, see everyone? See? It's an okay thing to do. Right? And I was like, maybe not for TEDx, though. I don't know. Maybe that's not the right environment for that.
So you went from having your dry run with your husband to like one of the most outstanding, well thought, put together TEDx talks that I've ever watched.
That is such a nice compliment. I could cry.
I mean that. I was like, I was kind of like buckled up. I knew you said how great it went, and I had been dying to see it. And then I think we must have been gone when it came out to Bali, and we watched it, and I'm like, wow, like this was amazing. And like the structure of what you said, and you reiterated like the key points, and it was just really well done, in my opinion. And so how'd that happen? You had a really, you had your first draft to that.
Yeah. So I had the first draft and I had the bones, I think, of what I wanted to say in there, but all constructive criticism aside, my husband said, he's like, you just need to be yourself. Like your greatest speaking ability lies in spontaneity. And in love. Like when you love people, it doesn't matter if you're speaking to a room of your teacher trainees or if you're speaking to an audience of thousands, you turn on when you connect with that thing that's bigger than yourself, right? And he didn't say it in those words, but that was like the message that I received, was basically like, surrender to God, love these people, know that the message is for them and not about you, and show and give it 100% of your personality, right? And that didn't really, in terms of the actual speech writing process, like I went back and deconstructed the speech. So I'd written a script and I took it back and made it bones of sentences. And then I took it back and made it bones of like words or kind of like phrases, concepts, so that there could be more spontaneous rhetoric. Like I could just be talking. Yeah, like talking and maybe making jokes, or like, not poop jokes and not poop jokes, right? Like, and so I asked Lori Harder, when I went to her event, the Bliss Project this spring, she was sharing that she had prepared for her event by walking, and that her she had 2 days of talks. It was probably at least 4 hours of content, and she was sharing, how did I memorize this, even though it wasn't really memorizing, but it was like, how did I learn this stuff in my body so that it sounds organic and natural when I'm speaking. And she was sharing that that the neurogenesis, like the mapping of brain pathways, is much more powerful when you combine movement with thought. And so she was like, go walk every day, go for a long walk, or however long it needs to be, and practice your talk as you walk, and it'll create a new imprint, basically, of these neural pathways, where, like, as your body moves, the words will come. And so I'm like, this is cool. So I started doing that. Like, I took my little bare bones, script, and I would just go with my paper and like walk down by the beach, and just talk to myself. And I probably look like a crazy person, but I didn't care. It was great. And I think I was inspiring people on the way. I think they'd catch little snippets and they'd be like, and then now, like, yeah, you'll never be ready. And they're like, okay, this lady. So I did that, and it was really incredible. Like, within a week and a half of doing that, I could find myself laying in bed at night and just say, like, giving the talk, right? And I found the more I gave it out loud, the more little gems would come in ad-libbing, where I'm like, ooh, okay, I think I want to say that. And then when I actually got up there to do it, okay, so here's the thing. I bombed the dress rehearsal. Like, I bombed. I like literally completely forgot my talk at 3 different places. I said shit into the microphone. I stood up there and was just like, mouth hanging open, like staring at everyone. Like,
how many people were at the dress rehearsal?
Only like 30. It wasn't like, it wasn't crazy, but I was like, this is embarrassing. It was the night before. And I went back to the hotel, and I just practiced again, and I prayed. But I think that the real magic was in the day of, I finally realized, like, visualization, surrender, and then the truth of, like, what my husband said, which is, you got to just get up there and be yourself. Because if nothing else, like, people will love who you are. So even if your talk sucks, if you say shit into the microphone, at least you'll have some new friends,
Get them laughing, because you're amazing.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm sorry. What did you learn that you're surprised to have learned through the experience?
What did I learn that I was surprised to learn? So I think one of the biggest things is that, like, a little bit of what we just said, but like these big things that you can imagine yourself doing, they are just a process of little things, little tasks, little activities, little decisions that you make over and over, right? So this is funny because that's I learned the thing that my talk was about. But I really did. I learned those 2 things. I learned there are no big decisions. I learned you'll never be ready. And I learned that, that this idea about readiness is really more about creating practices or habits. Like, it's about the small decisions that you do every day. So for me, it was, I could have fallen back into my usual MO, which is, let me procrastinate this thing, put it on the back burner, and not prepare for it, right? And I was like, this is the time I do this differently, right? And so I said, that's an old story, and I'm not going to subscribe anymore to this idea that I'm putting this in quotes, you guys, that I'm a procrastinator and that I put everything to the last minute. I was like, not this time. I'm going to plan it. I'm going to practice it. I'm going to walk it. I'm going to know it. I'm going to, like, breathe it. And then when I get up there, I'm going to deliver it. And I learned that the self-criticism is mostly a liar. Like, I didn't think it was that good. I mean, I thought it was really good after I delivered it. But before I delivered it, when I was still in the headspace of how does this compare to what everybody else is doing? How does this compare to other existing TED Talks or TEDx talks out there? I was really like, it's probably not very good, right?
What I love about it is that it's something that I think everyone literally could afford to hear at any time. Like, if I listen to that right now, I'm going to take something away that's inspiring. And I think not maybe every TED Talk feels that way. It might be really specific, but I really feel like your message, like if I click that on right now, I'd be like, okay, let's go. Like, get out of my head, like do it.
Yeah, thank you. And it was interesting because I have a confession to make, which is I wasn't really the most experienced like TED. I think I'd maybe seen 2 or 3 TED or TEDx talks in my day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like making a really weird face right now, you guys. So I'm like, I don't think I'm supposed to say that either. I think you're supposed to be like, I watched every TED talk. There's like 8 billion of them.
There's so many.
So many. And so I kind of made a conscious choice in the planning process too, to not consume a bunch of them because I knew that it would just color, the way that I felt like I needed to do it when I really just wanted to be fresh and just deliver my message. The other thing is TED and TEDx are secular. So like the message has to be where the truth is that so much of my ability to start before I'm ready is faith-based. And I don't mean that in it being religion-based. I mean, it's faith-based. If you haven't listened to our episode on faith, go listen. Because really it's about just this belief that we are held and we are supported and that things are not happening by accident and that I chose this, you know what I mean? Like in my highest self, in co-creation with the creator of the universe, I decided I'm going to do this TEDx at this particular juncture and it's purposeful, right? So I can rest in that trust that whatever is going to come out of it is what's supposed to come out of it, even if it's me bombing it or whatever, which I didn't do. So I learned that. I also learned the power of visualization. I think that's one huge tangible thing that I want to share with everyone because I knew visualization was powerful, but I had never used it in this exact way, which was, I bombed the dress rehearsal and then the morning of I'm sitting up in the back of the theater and the person presenting before me is giving their talk. And as I'm sitting in the back of the theater, halfway listening to their talk, I stop listening to their talk and I'm like, okay, you want this to go a certain way. So let's visualize how you want it to go. So I prayed, I said my prayers, I surrendered it. And then I sat down and I walked myself mentally through everything from standing up in the very seat where I was, checking my mic, walking down the stairs, taking the stage, delivering the talk. And I kind of mentally ran through a Cliff's Notes version of the talk, envisioning, clearly visualizing and feeling the energy of the audience, feeling them receiving what I was saying, feeling them laughing in the parts where I had hoped they would laugh, feeling the energy of the applause at the end of it, and feeling this sense of relief and gratitude and pride, really, in a healthy pride. Yeah. Accomplishment. Yeah. And then that's exactly what happened. I said that prayer, I did the visualization. And then at that moment it was okay, you're on. And I took a big breath and just surrendered. And I was like, it's going to be what it's going to be. There's no more time to prepare or plan. We got to go,
Now is trust.
Yep. Now it's trust. And so I went up there and I think that visualization was incredibly powerful. I think that trusting yourself is incredibly powerful. And I think that, I didn't hit my stride. Those who know me really well can watch the video and be like, that's the point where she relaxed. That's the point where she realized, holy shit, I'm not totally fucking this up. I'm okay. You know what I mean? Because it was a very distinct point, which
you feel your hands change, and
you started to see me like become more animated and take up more space and have a more natural cadence to my speech and ad lib a little bit more. And it was like,
own it.
yeah. And there was one line in my talk where I say, life is still life. It keeps chugging along, chucking out banana peels. And I was joking as I was practicing. And I was like to Stevie and my husband, I'm like, hey guys, you think I should like do this and do like a chug choo choo? Like I was doing choo choo arms, like walking across the stage. And they're like, yes, like do all of that, do more, like do as much funny stuff as, do whatever comes to you, And I was like, you guys are silly. I'm not going to do that. And then I got up there and I did like the little babiest choo-choo arms ever, but it was a start, It was a start.
Did you get the poopy feeling ever?
Like I had to poop my pants?
Yeah.
No. So here's a cool thing that I also learned. Your girl loves stage lights. Oh my God. Some people don't, but I got up there and I was like, holy shit, I'm blind and I love it. You know what I mean? Like, and if you don't know, like, so when stage lights are all the way up, you literally cannot see anyone in the audience. It's just light. Right. And so I was like standing in a tunnel of light and I was just like, it's just like, just me and Jesus, like I was like up on this stage and I was just like, wow. And for some people, like if you've read any of Brene Brown's stuff, she'll say she always asks them to turn the stage lights down to halfway because for her, she gets nervous if she can't like connect with the audience, see them, feel them. But the interesting thing is I could still feel them.
Yeah.
I could feel every ounce of their energy. And the lights helped me not attach to their faces and like whether they were confused or whatever, right? So for me, especially, I think the first time it was like very helpful to have those stage lights. And something happened when I got up there and I realized like, okay, I'm not going to be able to see them. It's just super bright. So just pretend like you're making eye contact and just be in the tunnel of light. I don't know. That sounds so weird, but I was just like, this is just a moment and this is just another moment and this is just another moment, right? Let me just start talking. And it was so incredibly powerful. Like when I reached that first, each kind of moment where there was an emotional tug on the audience, there's an energetic connection that happens between the speaker and the audience where it's like a hive mind, which sounds really
explain
creepy.
hive.
You say that out loud. Sounds really horrible. It's like you're on the same wavelength. It's just like when you're, you can feel whether somebody's receiving what you're saying, right? And this is interesting.
Like beehive?
Yeah, well, no, like not a beehive. I mean, I don't know if bees actually act this way, but a hive mind means like we're all connected to the same consciousness, right?
Got it.
So like the expression of it was, even though I couldn't see them and I couldn't see their facial expressions, you can hear the little collective intake of breath, or you can hear the little like sigh of relief, or like there's these tiny human expressions that carry so much that when you're in a one-on-one conversation face-to-face with somebody and you see them, you pick up on all of this stuff subconsciously. But when you're speaking and you're feeling 100 or 200 or 500, you're feeling all of these people having that same emotion or the expression at one time. It, for me, and I have always had empathic feeling, like I'm not clairvoyant, I'm not clairaudient, I don't have any of that, but I can feel people. And I could feel the whole audience. And I was just like, this is cool. Like, probably wouldn't have been cool if I was like bombing. You know what I mean? It probably would have been like, this is horrible.
Well, I can really feel it.
Yeah, but it was really, really, really cool. And I didn't know until I got up there whether it was something I wanted to do, and then I got up there and I was like, I want to do this every day. Let's go. No, maybe not every day. I'd probably puke if I had to do that every day because I was pretty stressed out.
Yeah. One of the things you said, it's like echoing in my mind about like when you were practicing preparing, right? You have little gems unfolding and knowing more and more, like the fine tuning, the continuous like refining of it. And it's like, keep going, keep going, keep going. And all through that process, it's like you kept going all the way till the end. And like, you still keep going and keep going and keep going.
Yeah. And I think for me, it was like, there was a little part of me that, and I think anyone who's being honest will like acknowledge this. There was a little part of me that was like, I hope this is my big break. You know what I mean? Like, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean in all seriousness? You know, I think there was part of me that was like, if I do it really, really well, it'll be on this YouTube that has 19 million subscribers and everybody will see me, and then I'll be best friends with Oprah, and that's how this is going to unfold.
We'll be driving together for lunch, and then I'll be flying somewhere with her.
Yeah, which is real cute and funny. But what really happened is it just taught me that there's no reason why you can't do the thing that you want to do. If you want to do a TEDx, go apply to do one. They're literally open for application. You can search for one near you. Some of them are education oriented or academically oriented. Some of them are, community or city based. The big cities, San Francisco, New York, those are going to be much more challenging stages to get onto. But smaller towns, universities, like, go try, you know what I mean? Like, they're looking for people who are creating, the hashtag or the tagline is conversations worth spreading. Is that what it is?
Ideas worth spreading.
Ideas worth spreading, right? Start the conversation is what it's, the concept that it's supposed to be. So I think that's really interesting because starting the conversation means you're not telling people the answers. You're not giving them everything that they need to know. You're giving them a place to start chewing on something meaningful and then go talk to each other about it.
Like planting the seed, and who knows what it's going to grow into, but you like tended the soil, got it ready.
Yes. And so in that sense, I had also tried to like make my talk more, like, there were parts of it where I was like, is that too aggressive? Like, should I really be calling people out like that? I don't know. That feels, maybe some people aren't like this. And then the feedback that I received from everyone through the process was, that's the point. Like, you don't have to soften it. Because initially at the very end of the talk, I had kind of softened it the way that we do with our social media captions, where I was like, if this is you and you're trying to start before you're ready, blah, 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 then blah, blah, blah. And my Nirakar, the guy who was coordinating the TEDx, was like, no, just end it at like the most impactful sentence. Like, keep it polarizing. Like, go ahead and piss people off. If that's what happens, fine. Like, but we're just starting the conversation, right? You're not giving them absolutely everything. So I thought that was interesting too. And just my biggest takeaway for you guys is, like, so many times this year I've learned this lesson, and I keep learning it over and over. Like, ask for what you want, go out there and apply to do the thing, submit your resume to the job, ask the person out on a date, whatever it is, like, because even if it's a no, like, there's so much information in the no, like,
the process.
Yeah. Like and I've started saying this to people, the worst you can get is no answer, because no answer doesn't really, that just kind of leaves you where you are. Right. But no, you'll learn something from no. You'll learn why not, or you'll learn a different way to ask, or you'll learn, this or something better, like something better will come. And then the best that can happen, or what we often think is the best, is just the easy yes. And it's like, so many times lately, we're going to have both of us, Linda and I are going to have some podcast guests coming up that are so fucking badass, you guys. And it's because we just had the courage to be like, hey, we have a podcast. You want to come on our podcast? We think you're really great. We love you. Can you come on my show?
Please.
Yeah. And they said yes. And it's like, they could have said no and that would be fine. It would teach us something. And so I feel like if you haven't watched the talk yet, now you need to go watch the talk, because this will all make sense. But there are no big decisions and you'll never be ready. So now is as good a time as any to go and do the things that you want to do in your life.
There's two things I want to say. One, I feel like you, through that process, like connecting with the service element versus like, I'm on a TED stage, like that really shone through, and like reiterating that, that's something for myself that's continuously like, this isn't about me. It's about everyone else that may be touched through this moment. And, I'm getting the chills as I say that. And that like shone through so much, Amelia. And I would encourage, all of our listeners to tap into really like the why and the who is being touched and moved through that beyond yourself in each moment through the day, like as a mindfulness practice. And I have one question for you, but Amelia before the TED Talk to Amelia after, how have you changed?
Well, I want to speak to what you just said first, because I think that's part of it. It would have been easy for me to make it about me, and in fact, the first version of my talk had a lot more about me, right? It wasn't just a little kind of preface of here's who I used to be, here's who I am now what was the A to B. I circled back to that and I said more stuff about myself later. And I ended up pulling that stuff out because of this exact sentiment where I was like, this isn't about me. This is a universal message that everybody needs to hear. And I have the privilege of being the messenger. And if even one person in the audience, forget about on the YouTube and all of that, but if even one person actually takes this message in and makes it theirs, their life will be deeply changed. And that is so cool. You know what I mean? So the other part of that I didn't say about the visualization prayer, that was the prayer, right? Before I visualized, that was the prayer, was like, God, I know that this is not about me. So serve these people, like give them what they need, right? And let me be the vessel that does that. How beyond really being affirmed in having a heart of service in these kind of events, because I took that lesson from that event and I took it to some of the other things that I'm doing. So like now when I go and I show up to a conference or to a women's entrepreneur networking event or whatever, that is my question, is how may I serve, like before I go in, because it takes you out of that ego. It takes you out of what am I going to get out of this? And what am I going to get out of this? I think it's one of the most harmful energies that you can have when you walk into a space, because it's so limiting. I don't mean necessarily even harmful that it's going to harm other people, but like what can I get is all about like, think about the energy of that. You're like just drawing the energy,
Taking it in,
and then holding it. Versus like, how can I serve is like this equal exchange of energy where like, you're going to receive whatever's in that environment. It's going to come through you, but you can also walk in there as a beacon to other people of healing, of hope, of openness and curiosity, whatever that is. And you can literally change lives just by being that energy in a space. So I love that you brought that up, because I think that was something that I've been learning over the last few months. How have I changed? I think I saw myself a little bit, oh, now I'm going to cry. When you have a lifetime of insecurity and of thinking you're not good enough and that you're not worthy of the big dreams that you have, and then you have the courage to start before you're ready and to make the small, clear decisions each day that are supporting the life that you want to create. Then when you have these moments and these opportunities to do something that scares you and to do something that's calling you to play that edge of who you think you could be, it really lets you love yourself more. I had so much compassion for myself through that process of trying and of, you know, working to craft the perfect message and of doing everything that I could to make it great, but eventually realizing that, you know, there was only so much that I could actually do, and I needed to show up and surrender and trust. But the other thing that I realized is like, I did that, you know, I did that. I did all of it. I wrote the thing. I had the courage to show up and tell my truth, like my story, my truth to people. And I was kind to myself through the process. And the feedback that I received afterwards of people, you know, saying how impactful this was and that it changed their life or it changed their perspective, and people continuing to say that, I'm receiving it like on purpose. Like I have to, like, I'm sitting here like crunched up right now. Like I put my shoulders back and my heart forward and my hands up, and I'm like, I can receive that, you know? And I want to model that for women. Like I want to model, like, you know what, you did that thing. Like you deserve this feeling of accomplishment and gratitude. And there is such a thing as healthy pride. You know, you can be proud of yourself. Like I'm fucking proud of myself that I did that. And I'm grateful for the opportunities that came that helped me do that. But I think one of the biggest things is, you know, it's not all the shit that people tell you about yourself. They're mostly not blowing smoke up your ass. Like it's true, you know? So when people are like, hey, you're really good at baking muffins. And you're like, no, I'm not good at baking muffins. These are not good muffins. These muffins baked themselves. They mixed themselves in the bowl. They put themselves in the oven. It's like, no, those fucking muffins did not make themselves. This is a weird example, but stay with it. Like, really, they didn't, you know, and you made the muffins. And like, stop doing that. Like, stop deflecting it. Let yourself receive. Let yourself say, thank you. Yes, I worked hard on those muffins.
And it's not, that's exactly like you, like from the moment that you had the vision of you being a speaker and like the way it manifested as it being a TEDx stage, and then you actually doing it and all the preparation and being there, like, you know, forever you are changed at your view of how you see speakers, and like this respect of what goes into it and the work that goes into it. And it's not just like I showed up with amazing hair and makeup and I speak. Like it's all of these things. And when you dissect, like that's something recently that I've come into awareness of, is like, to make anything happen and to happen well, like it takes work and preparation and like, and the spirit of giving and all of these things. So you embody that. And that's one of the things that I think changed, is you've been in it and in the process and have a whole different perspective of how you show up. And like, that's what I see change in you and in myself. Like that's what's changed for me since you've become a TEDx speaker.
Oh, thank you. And you're absolutely right. And you know what's so interesting is the event that I wanted to speak at initially, and I'm not putting her on blast, but like those of you who have been on my social media know what I'm talking about. I went to her event. I bought a VIP ticket. I was not a speaker. I was a guest. But my experience at TEDx did change my perspective so dramatically that when I went to this event, I was like, I showed up with 100% energy and that same, how can I serve? Such a respect for the speakers. I was in the front row, like filming their stuff so that I could send it to them in the DMs and stories so that they could post it. So they had video of themselves, you know, like just showed up to her event. Like, I may not be a speaker here, but let me pump up your audience. Let me support your speakers. Let me give as much as I can give in this space. And who knows what will happen next year, but I will say that the connection that was forged was like so much more powerful because I showed up with this respect for what it is she's doing in the event. And a humility of like, I don't need to be the one on the stage to help you create something amazing. And I know that the relationships, so one of the relationships that I formed at that event, I will be speaking at a different event next year because of it. Right. So that's the other thing is like anything that you want to do, if you really want to do it, like get humble around it and ask yourself like kind of what is one step down or back from the big version of what I want to do. And maybe it's going and volunteering at some conferences, or maybe it's like volunteering for a TEDx and like getting in with the directors and getting to know them. Especially if you don't feel like you have a platform from which to promote yourself. Like if you're really in that expression of like, oh, who am I? And I don't have this and I don't have that. Well, go serve, like go get connected, go get involved, because you know, something that's going to make a way bigger impression than you just emailing somebody with a bunch of fucking followers on social media is you showing up and being like, what can I do? Can I break down boxes? You want me to pack up these string lights? Like, let me help.
Need extra water bottles. You seem dehydrated. I'll grab them on the way.
Yeah. Like that is going to make a difference. And that's where like, I agree with you, Linda, like a heart of service will carry you so far in this life, like so much further than you think. And there's a lot of exciting things on the horizon that are springing out of that I can't even share yet, but where I'm just in that shift, right? And I think that's like what this year is for me. And I'm so thankful to finally be learning that lesson, because I feel like I have spent a lot of years in the comparison and competition mindset, even though people will be like, oh no, Amelia, you're always empowering women and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yes, but inside my head, I'm like, I want to win. You know what I mean?
The best.
I want to be the best woman, the best friend. I mean, it's only maybe halfway true, or maybe like 73% true.
And there's programming with that. Like I can relate. My dad is always like, I can do anything better than you, since I was a little girl, that song.
Yeah.
It's like, where did that come from?
Yeah. I know the song. And I think it's a beautiful thing to have drive and to want to strive for excellence. Like that's awesome. Strive for excellence. But stop looking around and comparing yourself to other women who are being excellent, because they're not doing that. Well, maybe they're doing it a little bit, but mostly they're striving for their own version of excellence and their own highest standard of service. And as they do that, they just float up to the surface. You know what I mean?
And it's work. Like, I mean, you put the blinders on and like take your next step, and that's going to look a lot different than anybody else's next step. And it's easy to get distracted by the noise or the conference or the speaking or all this different stuff. And it's like, when you trust your next step, it's all unfolding exactly for that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing is to trust. As you're trusting in that unfolding, you're maybe not always able to see why A has to come before B, but just know that it does, right? Like, I'm like, why did I have to spend 5 years saying I'm going to be a writer, speaker, coach, and it's like, I could get in that same obsession now and be like, well, when am I going to finish my book? And when is my book going to be published? And when am I going to do this? And when am I going to speak on that stage? But I think one of the biggest things that I got out of TEDx was the experiential truth about the power of manifestation. Plant your seeds, set your intentions, approach them lovingly, and then like just trust that it's gonna come. Like it's already on the way. It's literally, it's in its little Amazon Prime box, and it's like in a truck near you.
And just don't like mind fuck yourself until it gets there with all the reasons why it can't, and like lose focus and trust, because that's a sure way to make sure it's not going to happen.
Yeah. So go listen to the TEDx.
Can we talk about any inspiring book club books?
Yeah.
The book club.
All right, guys. So the book club selection is one that I give to many of my coaching clients. It's called Do the Work by Stephen Pressfield. And the reason that I love this book is it's really short. It's like, I don't know, 50
pages.
It's real short. Yeah. And it's that way on purpose, because the whole point of this book is that, especially if you're an entrepreneur or an artist, because this was really a book that was written for writers and artists, creatives, you can spend forever procrastinating reading books about the thing that you want to do, and reading those books is never going to write your book for you or paint your masterpiece for you or find a relationship for you or whatever it is that you're trying to do. So do the work. Super short and sweet little book. I'm going to see if I can.
It's going to be the last book you ever read because you'll be so inspired.
Yeah.
It's definitely not, but.
Oh man, I don't have mine on my desk right now. Otherwise I was going to read you guys an inspiring quote from it, but go check it out on Amazon. It's short enough that you can buy it. You can read it in the morning and then you can get back to work by the afternoon. And I think that's actually what it says to do in the preface. But one of the biggest takeaways from it is Stephen Pressfield talks about the fact that, that there are two energies in the process of creation. And there's the energy of resistance. And then there's also the energy of assistance. So it's the energy of resistance is a real thing. And what you need to know is that resistance is not fucking around and it's not going anywhere. So you have to learn to dance with resistance and to find your ways of working with resistance, which are, not necessarily oppositional, but like learning how to integrate resistance into your actual processes so that you can do the work. Because apparently it never goes anywhere. And it just reminds me of like my 92-year-old grandma. I think I've told this story a million times, but when I asked her like, hey grandma, when am I going to figure life out? And she just laughed and she's like, I'm never going to figure it out. So just stop trying. And the sooner you stop trying, the more fun you'll have. And I feel like that's also true with the creative process or the things that you want to do. Laugh a little bit, stop trying so hard, but also like keep moving forward, like look
the
for
action.
the next right thing to do and do that and do it today, and don't expect that tomorrow there will be no resistance, because the resistance of tomorrow will just be different than the resistance of today, but it will still be resistance. And every day will bring us a new breed of resistance. So do the work, ladies and gentlemen, by Stephen Pressfield. Go check it out. Go watch my TEDx. We're going to put the link in the show notes. It's going to change your life if you let it. So go watch it, please.
This is from Mr. Pressfield. A child has no trouble believing the unbelievable, nor does the genius or the madman. Mm-hmm. It's only you and I with our big brains and our tiny hearts who doubt and overthink and hesitate.
Mm-hmm. So true. I'm glad I'm a genius and a madman and a child.
Me too.
I'm a childish genius madman instead of the big brain, tiny heart. But yeah, go do the things, guys, and then go do the things that you want to do in your life, and let us know. Connect with us on social media.
Celebrate the wins.
Yeah, what are you starting before you're ready? What is one not big decision, but small, clear decision that you can start to make today towards the life that you want? And thanks for interviewing me on this, Linda.
Yeah, so fun. Thanks for being so open and sharing. And we love you guys. Have an amazing day.
Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today on another episode of Rise to Thrive podcast. We are so stoked that you're here. If you loved today's episode, if it helped you, please share it with a friend, snap a screenshot, tag us on stories at Rise to Thrive podcast, or head to iTunes or Spotify and leave us an honest review. We love you guys. We appreciate you. And until next time, keep rising, keep thriving. See you next time.